Hi there and welcome. My name is Delane and we're here today to talk with Consciousness Mercredan, which is channeled by trance medium Francis Evans. Today we're going to be asking Merc about the spiritual significance of cancer and the mental and the physiological side of cancer as well. So please like this video if you enjoy it and subscribe to keep updated, and please add any questions and topics in the suggestion box. And we'd love to hear your questions as well. Now we're going to cross to Francis and see what Mercredan has to say to us today. Over to you, Francis.
Once again, it is my privilege and pleasure to come and spend these few moments of your time. It is said that reality is either a wave or a particle, a frequency that carries information that settles into solid form. The fields of influence are nestled together, containers within containers within containers, and one orientates, shall we say, the wave of consciousness through the various fields that, shall we say, add or subtract the information carried within it. So the solid form then manifests as reality, as an experiential consequence, enough for us to begin a conversation.
Thank you, Mercredan. This is very much along the lines of what we want to talk about today. So today we're going to be talking about the spiritual and psychological reasons for the disease of cancer. What we'd like to know is, what's the difference between cancer and all other diseases?
Every disease carries its own significant factors. What you call cancer, shall we say, is an overgrowth of consequential factors. Shall we say, they affect the various organs within the body and bring to it a recognition, shall we say, of what is both overgrowing and its paradoxical opposite, which is the underdevelopment of the organ. In other words, there is an influence and expectation and a currency, shall we say, cancers then in all their forms, that is, whether it is within or within the physical body, or it is manifest in a social ordered disease. So shall we say, when something is growing at a rate and has lost its ability to perceive when enough is enough. So often, shall we say, there are environmental factors that take place within the enough is enough. Often then they are associated with an inability to perceive what is, shall we say, a balanced nature, when one has had enough. So shall we say, taking a single consequence, shall we say, in the case of the skin lesions, so much of it is overexposure to, shall we say, the sun's rays. But it is not the sun's rays that are the problem. It is not just the overexposure. It is the confidential consequences within the being themselves. In other words, the whole idea of exposing the sun is to become attractive, to remain attractive. So one has carried the doubt that one is attractive. Do you understand? So one does not recognize when enough is enough. Do you understand? So the barriers, because the skin is what separates one's internal being with the external being. Do you understand? So there is that consequence of when one is not enough on the inside. Do you understand what I'm getting at? So there are always these consequential connections between the organs and the environment. Shall we take another thing? So many people have a problem with letting go. That is, enough is enough. So if there is not in their own minds enough, one will hold on to everything one has got. Do you understand? So then the digestion elimination problem becomes a deeper significance. One holds on even to waste products. And that in turn holds back the flow of consciousness, the flow of energy, the experience of the world. Then one resists experience and holds on to solid form. Do you follow? So there is an endless addiction to the nature of the solid world. So we will find then people who are addicted to solid forms, and the spiritual nature of life is an irrelevancy, and in most cases does not exist at all, unless it is recognized in, shall we say, organized religions that bring spirit into solid form. So, shall we say then, the spiritual nature is no longer spiritual, but is physical in its operation. Do you understand what I mean? One, shall we say, worships by donations, physicality. One sings in the choir, physicality. It is all related to the solid world. One is not exploring one's connection with the realms outside of the solid world. Does this shed some form of light?
Yes, it does. Thank you. So what's the difference? Why do we create cancer in our lives, some of us, and others don't?
Every disturbance is a call to awaken. You understand, if you put your attention on something, let us say one puts one's attention on the capacity of what you would call the brain. Now, in many cases, one operates with that as the functioning and most important organ within the system. One then is not in the physical body, but in the mental body. And so one's attention is still in the same regards. There is not enough information. There is not enough brain capacity. The brain is the only thing, the information within it is physical nature. It is a physical organ. It is electronically devised. It has no spirit. Do you follow what I mean? It is then to be over-pressured, over-organized, over-relied upon, and so forth. One version. The other side, of course, is seeing one's brain as inefficient, unworthy, requires more material, more attention, more of this and more of that. It is then not enough. So cancer, of course, is always trying to bring in more of everything. So it begins to try to fulfill the prophecy one is directing it at. One is a creative force. One delivers one's attention to that and, shall we say, reduces one's attention to living life. For many people, the awakening that this disease brings is, I have so little life. I am given a serious charge, and for some people, they begin to live life as if there were no tomorrow, shall we say. And for some of them, the very nature of the cancer stops and regresses altogether. What is referred to as a medical miracle. Nothing to do with medicine at all. It is to do with attention. It is to do with stepping into life as it is meant to be. You understand what that means?
Yes, thank you.
So shall we say then, if everyone with the cancers recognized whatever, I have to begin to throw my question to the wind, throw it away. What will happen? You understand, all of the fears are inconsequential. One can now be free to risk one's life because one has been given notice, shall we say. One has been evicted. To follow what I mean, better move on and gain as much as is possible. Do you follow? And that might be the only thing that saves the lifetime. Do you understand? The only thing that fulfills one's purpose for engaging in the life in the first place. The human species has, shall we say, an abnormal relationship with death. It does everything it can to avoid what is inevitable, as if the more extended you can make the life, the better the life was. And I am saying the more engaged, the more excited, the more adventurous the life is. That is what is the importance, not the age one survives to.
Very interesting.
You understand what the body does is activates what the spirit is requiring. One can alter, as I have said before, one can alter one's fate, but at the risk that spirit will bring you back to your destiny. What is your purpose for being?
So how can we prevent that? How can we gain that awareness with the particular reason of the particular cancer we have?
Every organ is a functioning part of the whole. And as such, it is a functioning part of one's spiritual life, as that, shall we call it spiritual psychological, because it is the inner experience of living. So when one recognizes that you are a whole being, and the organs of the body have to operate in a balanced and effective and together way, then one will recognize that in life I have to organize and operate my life in an organized and cooperative way. I cannot be taking more at the health of some other part. So shall we say the society, the community is a unit. If one is constantly taking more, so there is less for others in the community, then there is bound to be an overgrowth. The overgrowth then turns into different forms of, shall we say, imbalances. Shall we then say that often one is highly motivated, one is on edge, one is constantly active, and one cannot retire. That is, one cannot rest. And so one is, shall we say, pumping the bloodstream. One is then activating and doing all of that, which of course puts pressure on the functioning pump, as it were. The heart muscle itself is not, shall we say, the location of spirit. The spiritual realm is, shall we call it, an active field of influence with its central point in the center of the physical body. That is why it is always said one's field, one's major field at least, is shaped like an egg that surrounds the physical body, but has its power point in the central axis called the heart of matter. So shall we say then the physical pumping device is at the center of the field of influence. How you love, how you fear, how you hate, all of these things are bound to affect the heart. And the heart distributes everything, distributes, shall we say, the physical energy to all of the organs and cells. It is the most important distribution network. If you are not a distributor, then your distribution center is compromised. You follow what I'm getting at? And the same is true of all the organs. One seems to think that the brain is a functioning organ, but the brain is irrelevant without its connection to all the other bodily organs and cells and so on. It is not such a brain as it is the spinal distribution network that is sending information and returning the feedback, telling organs what needs to be taken care of. And when that begins to find resistance, when the heart, shall we say, is not willing to change its function, the brain will send extra information to, shall we say, deal with the problem. And so then you become more agitated, there is more hormone is being released. And do you understand, it is a whole system. And you cannot get away from that function. And if you have a community that is out of balance with the unified whole, you will find that there will be agitations and upsets and shall we call it revolts. And such a revolt in the body is deemed to be a cancer. Do you understand? As it is in the community, you cannot escape one's connection within one's wholeness, with one's connection within your community wholeness, and within your national wholeness, and within your global wholeness, and within your solar system galactic wholeness, and so on, with all the functions. So shall we say, then the planetary guardian has developed an imbalance. There is too much of something in its environment that has to be eliminated. But there is no point in eliminating something where there is an endless source of replacement. So, shall we say, the planetary guardian must then eliminate the sources of that. Shall we say, how do you deal with a cancerous growth? By radiation therapy, by burning it out. Do you follow? So the human condition is there are cells that are out of balance. One has to eliminate them, and so forth. So it is not just an individual's task. It is a social imperative, a national imperative, and a global imperative, or else suffering continues. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. So with that procedure of radiating the cells, is it easier to heal when we have trust and be at peace within that society that's not at peace?
when you come into balance, when you realize that life is a gift. To understand it is a gift from the divine, and one can repay the gift by giving to others, to follow. And so when one is giving to others, I want to say this is so much because there are those that come into the embodiment in order to draw attention to this imbalance. These are often the children who show great degree of, shall we call it, love for others. So they are demonstrating what is required. So they do not see themselves as sacrificial, but they see themselves as, shall we say, divine healers. Because through this opening of the heart of others, they are bringing their gift of life. You understand what time's?
Yes.
It is for many a hard lesson, because while you consider the only life you have is from birth to death, then it appears as if there is no divinity at all. But the lack of divinity is in perception, in the limited viewpoint of a physical reality.
Would that be the same for our pets that get cancer as well?
Of course. As I have pointed out, very often the pet is an externalization of a consciousness. So it is as if part of yourself is given away. And then the animal itself has a great affinity. You understand, if someone finds it hard, shall we take an example? Someone finds it hard to love another, and they cast out their a part of their being into the animal that shows them affection and for which they can give affection and love towards. They awaken to the nature of love.
Thank you, Mercredan. That seems enough for today.
Then once again, thank you for your work, your attention. The work in consciousness when one is re-evaluating one's old conceptions. Then thank you and goodbye.